You're listening to a Better Mousetrap podcast, a joint production by Marcos Dinnerstein and Far From TV. Our goal is to bring you, the listener, closer to the technology community here in New York City. Today you're listening to Marcos interview John Lynn. John Lynn, co-founder of New York City Innovation Collective and the Studio Project, has a big vision for accelerators for the present and the future. The Studio Project, a mega accelerator that works with institutions of all kinds to create innovative technologies using the accelerator model. John is leading New York City's growing amount of accelerators into a new platform with more than just common goals, standards, and best practices. John is leading Accelerator Awesome, the event happening this June 29th, 2018.
This is Marcos Dinnerstein, host of A Better Mousetrap podcast, and I'm speaking today with John Lynn, co-founder of Studio Project. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Marcos.
So tell us about, first of all, the Studio Project, broadly what that mission is, and also we're going to touch on the Accelerator Awesome event that's coming up.
Sure, that'd be great. I'm the co-founder of the Studio Project, which seeks to expand and scale the accelerator model. That means we want to regard the success of accelerators in tech ecosystems all over the world and say, okay, this has been really good for the tech ecosystem. Maybe we can use it as a bridge to create innovation in other sectors of the economy. And maybe we can also imagine accelerators in completely non-tech circumstances as well, and begin to create access and participation in the new economy in an entirely new way. Now, out of that, as you referenced, has grown this new initiative, Accelerator Awesome, which is the first global gathering of accelerators.
An accelerator model, when applied to a non-tech situation, what would that look like and what would it produce?
Sure. So one of the things that accelerators have become notable for providing inside of the tech community is expedited access, not just to fundraising and financial resources, but to all of the relationships and resources that it takes, not just to build the rudiments of a high potential early stage company, but also to get access to the education and the support that you need in order to know how to do that well. The reason that happens is because you have operators from the field. You have mentors who are actually acting and participating in the tech community, coming in as founders or investors or technology experts and telling founders not just what they can give them, but what they should know, right? In the same way, you can imagine an accelerator for the next generation of political candidates. That involves having different stakeholders from the political world coming into a cohort of individuals that maybe are running a campaign for the first time and giving them the same kind of download in terms of their knowledge and experience, but also their relationships and resources that can align education with opportunity in the way that accelerators do in tech. Now, opportunistically, that's meant most of our work has been with corporate innovation and building accelerators as innovation platforms inside of corporations. So we've done that with Verizon, worked with IBM, SAP, Penguin Random House, some others.
So this is kind of meta on my part.
Okay.
How do you look at yourself and your programs to decide what's the best way to do it? What's your feedback loop?
Yes. That's great.
That is the question.
How do we use accelerators to keep ourselves state of the art? And that's a great question, right? And a lot of it's through our community activity in the accelerator community. And that's meant setting up the Innovation Collective, which is a trade association of accelerators, but also now taking a step forward and creating a larger conversation around what the potential and status of accelerators are right now with Accelerator Awesome. And a big part of the reason that we want to do that is, yes, we want to show that accelerators are a platform for access and opportunity in the new economy. Yes, we want to create a first conversation for accelerators all over the world to come together and begin agreeing on industry terms and best practices, outcomes, oversight, and everything else that needs to happen for accelerators to find society-level adoption. But third, also, is to make sure that ourselves and everyone else that's present has the opportunity to learn as much about their space as possible in a very short amount of time. So, in a certain way, Accelerator Awesome is an accelerator for accelerators.
We've been speaking with John Lynn, co-founder of the Studio Project. On June 29th, they'll be co-sponsoring Accelerator Awesome in partnership with Work Awesome.
Marcos and I attended Smart Cities New York this past May 8th to 11th. Smart Cities New York was filled with smart people. Leaders in all areas of technology swarmed over New York and discussed topics such as cybersecurity, sustainable technologies, and making cities more efficient, and not just here in the United States.
So what's going on in the Netherlands in that respect?
Experimenting a lot, but we also discuss the issue of privacy and of, who owns the data? And that is exactly what it is all about, because we have the feeling that Big Brother is watching you instead of helping you.
How important is data for the city of Vancouver?
On the housing front, we crunched utility data on houses and apartments across the whole city and figured out that we had about 11,000 homes empty year-round, not using any electricity in the home. And that enabled us to bring forward an empty homes tax.
And we're speaking with Sweden's State Secretary of Housing and Digitalization, Mr. Alf Karlsson.
Better transport solutions, better waste management, to help companies build more innovative and smart. We put in a new incentive system with great subsidies of almost 400 million euros.
For more interviews from Smart Cities New York, don't forget to subscribe to A Better Mousetrap newsletter today.
Looking to create high-quality videos? Find the right talent and crews in New York City and around the world on Story Hunter. Go to storyhunter.com. We're back. This is Marcos Dinnerstein, and you're listening to A Better Mousetrap podcast. We've been speaking with John Lynn, co-founder of the Studio Project. On June 29th, they'll be co-sponsoring Accelerator Awesome in partnership with Work Awesome. And you said that opportunistically you've started in the corporate space. Where else have you been, if you have, had the opportunity to try this model?
Interestingly, there's a couple of different places that we've gone. So my co-founder, Sean Johnson, has led a project with the World Bank, setting up Excel Africa last year. We're potentially working on a number of international accelerators, specifically with Chinese partners. And interestingly, there's been a lot of traction with blockchain companies. There's so much saturation inside of the crypto space and even inside of different blockchain stacks that are being developed that they're looking for accelerators to create platforms to attract developers, to attract high potential entrepreneurs to come together and start building applications on top of their technology stacks. And that's sort of a new trend this year, but it's been significant. So to answer your question, right, we're still influencing tech accelerators and still building accelerators as a service inside of the tech community, but we also are opening opportunities to build them inside of institutions like corporations, with governments, universities.
It's giving me pause thinking about the blockchain, because it's growing companies while the infrastructure, the underlying infrastructure of this field is still growing as well. So it's
that's actually part of the reason.
The pace of both of these necessary components is amazingly fast.
It is, and that's part of the reason that I think it's actually a great time for them to begin depending on accelerator systems. Accelerators have become adopted all over the world because of their ability to create an entry point, not just for new participants inside of the tech community, but for any stakeholder that's necessary to the development of a tech economy. So that can mean more experienced technologists, founders, investors, service providers, all have a place inside of an accelerator program, an accelerator structure. So if you want to install a startup community in in your region, an accelerator is a great way to do it because it invites a way for even external expertise and resources to participate. So what that means for blockchain is that because it's new and because it's unclear what's necessary to making a great blockchain company succeed and how they should be measured, because there's not clarity on whether it should be by the same standards as traditional startups, VC investment, hiring, sales, distribution. And maybe it's just adoption. Maybe it's impact. Who knows? But what an accelerator can do is to create a system that enables all the different participants that can be relevant to come together and begin running those experiments to get us to the answer.
Right. It's a seed as well as fertile ground.
Yeah,
simultaneously, and hopefully it's in a larger
whole garden.
Context in which that garden can thrive. Santiago, Chile, with Startup Chile, is a great example.
It is. It's one of the first.
They put themselves on the map.
They did.
Who thought of Santiago or Chile as a tech place prior to that?
Yeah, we had teams when I was helping set up the Techstars program in New York City that were from Startup Chile. And that was five years ago, and before accelerators were really had really blossomed in the way they have now. I mean, the numbers are really interesting, right? There were the entire space is 12 years old. In 2009, there were 9 programs worldwide. In 2013, there were close to 200. But then suddenly in 2015, there were 2,500, and who knows how many there are now. So you're right. Startup Chile is an early example of how an accelerator platform can help establish an ecosystem.
Are you having, speaking of Startup Chile, since they're government supported, are you having many conversations with governments and seeing what interest they have in supporting accelerators?
Certainly are. Yes, we are, and that means with the city of New York, but also other cities, including Tampa, Tulsa, and even other world cities. One of the organizers on our host committee, Aviva, she's the CEO and managing director of Numa, New York, actually set up the European Accelerator Summit, which was the first of its kind. And so she'll be helping invite European participation. So we're very interested in having government channels and voices involved in the conversation.
Yep, makes sense. It could be a make or break component to many of these programs.
I agree.
So what else should we know about what you're up to?
Sure. So, I feel like we've gotten a pretty good spread on what the mission of the studio project is, and that we want to see, we want to refine the model, prepare it for to be adopted in all sorts of different areas of application in tech and beyond. And a big part of that process is beginning to create a more organized conversation within the accelerator industry itself around what's going on, what's possible, and where we should go together.
So tell us about the Accelerator Awesome event that's coming up.
I want to make sure that everyone is invited to Accelerator Awesome, co-production between the Studio Project and Work Awesome, one of the first global gatherings of the accelerator community worldwide. It'll be happening June 29th this year in New York City. You can find out more at acceleratorawesome.org.
We've been speaking with John Lynn, co-founder of the Studio Project. This is Marcos Dinnerstein, and you're listening to a Better Mousetrap podcast. Subscribe to a Better Mousetrap newsletter for tech events, founder opportunities, feature stories by going to bettermousetrap.nyc. That's bettermousetrap.nyc.
You've been listening to a Better Mousetrap podcast, a joint production by Marcos Dinnerstein and Far From TV. For more interviews like this one, follow a Better Mousetrap podcast on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and don't forget to sign up for the newsletter today. Looking to create high-quality videos? Find the right talent and crews in New York City and around the world on Story Hunter. Go to storyhunter.com.